Well, I guess I better get the microphone all set and ready to go for y'all. Well, I'm just going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the live stream right here on JJ's PC Builds. I'm going to let everybody get a chance to get rolled in, and we're going to look around and see what kind of information we can gather up this week. So, just let y'all know little things that have been going on behind the scenes that y'all know I've been trying to work on my weight, and I got the doctor to prescribe me one medication. I thought it was going to be okay for the dieting, but I was wrong. Turned around, that medication screwed me up. So I informed the doctor, let the doctor know. The doctor told me to stop taking the meds. Took me 36 hours to get rid of the side effect symptoms. But I'm going through checking to see. I'm going through my phone real quick. So. There we go. Alrighty, there we go. Alrighty. Just checking to make sure we're online. So I didn't spew off about 2 minutes worth of stuff and you guys didn't hear me. So yeah, the doctor got a hold of me or I got a hold of the doctor and told the doctor what was happening, and luckily I was only 3 pills in or 3 days into it, and I was like, no, this has got to go, because I didn't like the way I felt. Always go by the way you feel, and if you know you don't feel right the first day or the second day, don't do it. So I learned a lot, and I'm doing everything the other way to make it a lot easier on myself. And it seems to be working a lot better than those pills. So got rid of them, done with them, over with. I'm back to normal again, thank God. Because I'll tell you what, if you got any kind of anxiety with those, or anxiety in general, don't take them. And they're called phentermine. Do not take them. Word of caution. Even though that they're approved by the FDA somewhat, even though that they ran some testings, there's some bad side effects to it. If I would have used my head, and before I took them I would have did my research, then I would have known the really bad side effects. But now, well, hello Evo Portal, good to see you, welcome to the channel. So getting into it all, I just want to see how everybody's doing today, so that way you just get into the chat, let me know how you're doing. And if life is going good or it's going bad. And I just want to put a shout out to the East Coast, to all those hurricane victims. My heart goes out to you, for you and your family, for sure. And so I know it's devastating to see that. And my heart goes out to you guys. And try to stay safe and do the best you can. I know that, things are rough on the edges, but things will get better in time. So, been there, seen it, done it. Evo Portal says, what do I think about Zen 5? Well, about the same thing as I think about Zen 4. Same damn thing. Let me explain to you why. Okay, the only thing you're not, see, you gotta understand, there's a spectrum, okay, a frequency spectrum that you operate from. So you're just going from one to the next. But the thing is they never expanded the frequency. It's still a narrow band. Narrow banded on AM4, and it's still narrow banded on AM5. Zen 3, Zen 4, Zen 5 all still remain, no matter if they're moving the frequency, still on the same narrow band. So, either way you look at it, depends on what band your GPU's on, operating with your CPU in order for you to balance it. I'm on Zen 3. It's cheaper. There's more product. Everybody says, oh yeah, because it's slower and stuff like that. Well, absolutely not. I'm still using the same 30%, using a RTX 4070, still using the same 30% on my CPU, the 5700X, and nothing's changed. I can still play the new games that come out. I don't see why I would think anything above and beyond it, really. Yeah, 5800. See the difference between a 5700X and a 5800X? There's only, if you look at, put all the benchmarks together, there's only a 5% difference. That's it. 5% difference between 5700X and the 5800X. Really, same bottle. 15% slower, no. That's where everybody gets it wrong, because I'll tell you, there's only a 5% difference. Is because I can take the 5700X from get this, 65 watts up to 142 watts without stressing out the CPU. It's banded up to 142, but I only push it up to 88 watts because I undervolted it. So I still get the same spectrum as everybody else. I pushed it to 4.850 gigahertz, all core. Everybody thinks, oh no, you're only getting 4.850 single core. No, I'm not. I've already checked. I'm getting 4.850 all core. Even though it's supposed to only be 4.750. Yeah. You can push the core up another 100 megahertz or 200 megahertz. Some people get it out of the box, it goes to 4.650. Okay, out of the box. But you can go into the motherboard BIOS and change the clocks and add on 200 megahertz to the clocks and get higher clocks. Does it make a difference? Just a little bit, maybe 1% difference. But the 1% is 1%. You get a 1% gain without stressing out your CPU. And believe it or not, it's not stressing out the CPU, me getting that, 200 megahertz gain and boosting the clock up, other than it sitting at 4.650. Everybody says, oh, lock it in at 4.850 then. No. That's the worst mistake you ever do, because when the system sits idle, you don't want it to pull more power. You want a baseline and you want a boost line. Yep. I mean, undervolting is the best way to go to preserve your CPU. I got 64 gigs of RAM, and I look at it this way: why would I take and go to the next gen and then have to replace all the RAM, replace the motherboard, and then replace the CPU, you know, when I already have everything it needs for the next 3 or 4 years. So, why do so many tech tubers focus on overclocking when all you get is a few percent gains at the cost of 30% power increase? Well, the whole idea of overclocking your CPU is to find out to get the max of the max of the max. Basically, how far you can push it to the brink of collapse. So, if if the CPU cannot handle all the way to that max of the max of the max, then you get reviewers putting out, oh, well, I'm just going to, oh, my bad. I'm just going to give you baseline. And when they do the reviews, they don't give you two parts to it. They don't give you the overclocks part of it. They don't give you the undervolt part of it. They give you the baseline part of it. So that's what I mean by when they do the graphs for their benchmarks, they should have 3 sections. They should have the undervolting section, they should have the overclocking section, and they should have the baseline section. 3 different sections to give you an idea of the range going from the bottom end to the top end. But they don't. Me, I'm doing it undervolting and giving you the range. Is because if you undervolt your CPU and you're getting better clock performance and you're getting better performance overall, then you're best to undervolt. And you're best to save your CPU and save yourself from a lot of heat and, putting more heat into your PC actually will take and heat up your motherboard more and the whole 900 yards. So, if you want to keep it low and you want to keep it at a decent temperature like 60 C and anything below 75 C when you're playing your games, then you're best to undervolt. Now with your GPU, you're best to run it just as is. But I got the overclock version of a GPU. So, let's see. People are cooking their computers for a few percent gains. Yeah, basically that's all they're doing. But what they don't understand is on the game, they can undervolt and get more gain than overclocking and getting fewer gains. Because you got what they call that overprotection sensor. So when you overclock and you heat your processor up to its max, you hit that overprotection and it downclocks and it gives you crappy speeds when it downclocks. Once it does that first downclock, and you're going to get crappy speeds. That's the reason why I don't overclock. I undervolt because it never hits that margin. Never. I've never had a CPU ever hit that protection. So, what people don't realize is running it that hot, you're killing your motherboard, you're killing your RAM, you're killing your PSU, your power supply unit. You're killing everything. And if you got an AIO cooler, guess what you're doing? You're killing your AIO cooler. You buy an AIO cooler that's only designed for 5 years, and if you continuously run your processor overclocked, you'll be lucky to get 1 to 2 years out of your AIO cooler because you'll dry it out faster because the water will deplete inside, and everybody's like, oh, how come mine broke? I've been, running mine for 1 to 2 years, and guess what? My AIO cooler broke. You know why your AIO cooler broke? It's because you ran your processor overclocked at the highest temperature for the longest time, depleting the water that's inside of that AIO cooler. And then they burned out the pump and then had to replace the whole thing. See the point? That's why you don't overclock. So, every GPU, CPU should have an undervolting test. Yeah, I do agree with that. They should have, but they don't. They should have an undervolting test. Let me remember. There's a program that I use, OCCT. Even though that in the BIOS on my computer that it's undervolted, I still can run it on OCCT. There's a program called OCCT that you can test the CPU and see what it's putting out, giving you your totals. Like for that, for your CPU, your RAM, and your GPU. It does really good, and I'm very impressed with it because it'll let me know if something's wrong, because it'll stop the test automatically if something's wrong. So it does pretty good. I'm impressed. You know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, I do. I hope so, because I got so many years in this, it's just crazy. When you got to learn too, when you get past a certain age, and then you got all that knowledge, and you want to put it out there to the world, everybody looks at it like, oh no, it doesn't work like that. Well, go back to 1980. Go back to the early 80s and the early 79s. When the very, you got your consumer, your very first consumer PC that they put out in the world, compared to today. It's very crazy. It is very crazy. Going back to when they never had a graphics card, to coming up into the world where they do have a graphics card. I mean, I still carry, and I can't believe I still carry these. I still carry these. And you can't find these anymore. These are 7200 DINs, or 72 pin DINs. So basically you can't find these anymore. You cannot find these at all. I had a ton of them. And they're 72 pin DINs. Yep. Oh. Yep. And I keep a whole box of them, just to remind me where I first started back in the 80s. Where I started back in the 80s. You can't find these anymore. So. And I know somebody would pay an arm and a leg to get these from me too. So. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put it into the chat and I'll definitely answer it. Wow, old school EDO RAM. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people have them. Nobody really has them anymore. Nobody really keeps them anymore. I keep it for a reminder of where I first started. I keep them as a reminder. When you start your journey off of a 286 PC, an IBM 286, and you work your way up into the world, you know, then you get to learn a lot of things along the way. And I've definitely learned a lot of things along the way. But now we are in 2024. Now we can use all this newfangled stuff that they never had back in the long time ago. More than I'd say more than 35, 40 years ago. About that. But anywho, I did see what was it? Nvidia, they decided they're going to push back the launch date to Q1 of next year. That's going to be interesting. Because I think AMD is pushing back their release on their any of their 8000 series graphics cards to Q1 of next year. Or something like that. Just rumors and leaks right now. There's also another rumor and leak about Nvidia. We'll just stay on Nvidia for the moment. That they're supposed to have a 5080 that was leaked out there that they said is supposed to have 24 gigabytes of VRAM and one that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Not sure if they're going to take the 16 gigabytes of VRAM and move it to the 5070 or take one of the 5080s and move it down to a 5070. Which could be happening. They could be doing that. Because I don't think them sticking with the 12 gigabytes of VRAM on the 5070 series is going to cut it anymore. Because with these new games that are coming out, like Star Wars Outlaw, that was like totally, I guess it was a total flop from what people are telling me, because the game just ate up too much resources and they need to go back to the drawing board with it a little bit, from what people are saying, that it's not worth the money that you put out there for that game. So also too, I did get a game from one of my subscribers, a loyal subscriber over there on Discord, and that's Dakota. Thank you, Dakota, for the game. I was going to try to hook it up today and play it right here, but I didn't have enough time to get it hooked up and started. Maybe we'll do it for next week, or we'll do a video on it, one or the other. We'll get it out there to you guys, either by a video or by live stream. So, because I'm curious to check it out myself to see what it's about. It might be a very good and interesting game. So, but the game is called High on Life, if you want to know what it is. You can check it out yourself, and you can let me know and leave either a comment in the stream here today or leave a message on the video itself. You can do that as well. Everybody is more than welcome to leave a message on the video if they want to. I'm not the kind of person that goes around and, cherry picks people's comments. I'm not the kind of person that'll do that. So, as long as you don't use profanity on the comments, I won't take and remove the comment. Just to let you know. This way we keep it cool with YouTube and we don't have any problems. The reason why I'm saying this. So if y'all can use a little bit of common etiquette when it comes to leaving a comment and keep it on point, it would be appreciated. That way we don't have any problems with YouTube. Because if so, and you constantly put a comment on there, then I'll have to take and ban you from the channel. I don't like doing that neither. Just to let you know, I like to keep everybody I can on the channel. I don't like to ban people off the channel because they use profanity. But don't use it. let's have a little common sense, because there are kids that watch YouTube as well, so we got to use common sense when it comes to that. And I know I got to do it on, watch my language on the videos too. So I just figure I'll let you guys know that as well. And back to Nvidia. There might be a little sticker shock with the 5090. Some people are saying, and this is what I'm hearing, some people are saying that the 5090 might go up to $1,800. Some people are saying that it might go down to $1,200. Depends on what Jensen's going to do when it comes to keeping the gamers happy and getting all the gamers back to Nvidia's side. Which, if they do a mind-blowing low price on the 5090 and they move it down to $1,200, and on the 5080 they move that down to $800, and the 5070 they move that down to, let's be nice, about less than $500, and the 5060 less than $400, and try to do one card that's going to be decent for a $200 special. And if they do something like that and they do a 12 gigabyte for a $200 special, boom, they just blew AMD out of the water. A $200 12 gigabyte special would blow them out of the water. And then the rest of their cards, make them all 16 gigabytes of VRAM, except for the 5080. Make the 5080 24 gigabytes of VRAM, or make the 5080 24 gigabytes of VRAM. And be nice and make the 5070 20 gigabytes of VRAM. That would really blow everybody out of the water. Then your 5060 go down to 16. And then, anything below that, just make them 12 gigabytes of VRAM and call it a day. And give a fair and decent price all the way around. I guarantee people will start buying their cards again. They'll take and they'll put Nvidia on their Christmas list. So Nvidia's already made their money. They should be nice enough to throw the gamers a bone and get the GPUs moving once again in the world. Not unless they don't want to make any more sales, because I'm hearing that, people are not going to buy graphics cards for next gen. Well, majority is not going to buy graphics cards for the next gen if they keep these prices jacked up to the moon. So, clear all your old stock out, bring in the new. And hopefully they bring it in, started off at a low price. Because when it comes to the online retailers, they jack the price up 15-20% sometimes. Sometimes in order for them to make any money, because they got to give you free shipping and everything else, like Amazon. They put a 5% to at least 7% increase on every graphics card. So that's something to keep in mind. That is something to keep in mind. Now, the talk of the town is, everybody's asking me, well, if I go to buy me a computer, should I go with the AM4 series, the 7000 series? Or should I go with the AM5? It should be AM6, 9000 series, but for some reason they skipped over the 8000 series and everybody forgot about it, because you got the 8700G in the 8000 series. So your 7000 series is your what? Your AM4. 8000 series should be your AM5. 9000 series should be AM6. Quote me if I'm wrong. Oh, pseudoscientist, good to see you, my friend. I see stalling. Who's stalling? Just want to know. And very little gain. It's like they are terrified we will use AI against them. But good wishing, Nvidia will be generous. Okay. Yeah. I'm hopefully, Nvidia puts something good in everybody's stocking for next year. So, because when it comes to it, and everybody knows this, anything below 1 nanometer, they're not going to be able to do it because of the simple fact that would be pushing it more to quantum, pushing it that anything below that would be pushing it into the quantum section, and not a lot of people want to do that. So, how do you feel about living in a world where hardware performance simply stops increasing due to limitations of fabs being unable to shrink? Well, I just got talking about that. To shrink transistors anymore. We are already very close at this. Well, they might not be able to shrink the one, but they might be coming up with two. If you can't shrink one, then you add another, and then you combine the two. That's what Nvidia did with their Grace Hopper. They put two GPUs, and they got one processor to combine them together to make it one. So, yeah. Or government regulations limit, let's say, 600 watts. If they do that, bro, pseudoscientists, listen, if they limit it to 600 watts, I'm going to be like, you're going to be putting all PSU makers out of business. And they're not going to like that so well. There's going to be a big fight about that for sure. Hello, MTBK. Good to see you. Good to see you. Undervolting tests are useful, but can only tell so much. The silicon quality of the CPU might differ as well as one program. Yeah, it could. That is true. Game can run stable and a different one crashes, including OS. Well, in some reasons. I mean, when you undervolt, okay, I know there's a limit you can undervolt to. Okay, but if your baseline is 65 watts and you keep it within a certain margin of that 65 watts, you can always push your clocks and balance your wattage between that and your clocks to get the utmost output. But if you go to push your RAM, your system RAM, like that, yeah, there's a very bad imbalance. And yeah, it might work for one game and it might not work for the other. But if you balance your system RAM out just right with your CPU, you can push your CPU a lot higher than it is now, being undervolted. So, there is a catch and grab to everything. I guess I missed the half an hour of fun here. No, you didn't miss a half hour of fun, bro. It's all good. Yes, but it will give us a general idea of how well a CPU and GPU can undervolt. I just got here also. Don't worry, guys, you didn't miss much. We were just sitting here shooting the gab about a couple things, you know. But I am going to say this. When it comes to undervolting or overclocking, okay, it all depends on what you want to do with your CPU processor. If you decide and say, hey, I want to push it to its max, then keep in mind Intel's 13th and 14th gen, when they pushed it and they found out it degraded them badly to the point where they had people sending back their processor, their CPUs, to get another one, the one that's fixed. So if you don't want to be that kind of person that's playing your game and really going at it hard, be stuck in that boat to where, you know, you get a black screen and nothing comes back, and you're looking at the screen like, my game I was just playing, I was doing so well. Then, you know, you might want to think about undervolting and allowing your clocks to go up and above and beyond a little bit to support your GPU. So it minimizes bottlenecking, which I don't believe in anyway. That's all BS as far as I care. I'm with Evo. Overclocking is out. Undervolting is in for the average gamer. I know, I understood. I understood, pseudoscientist. So, yeah. Everybody asks me, how come I never talk about, you know, showing overclocking? Well, I don't believe that you're going to learn more from pushing it up to its max. If you wanted to push it up to its max, then you might as well just take and open up your wallet or your purse or whoever you are. You got a man, you got a wallet, woman, you got a purse. Open it up and start putting that money out. Just keep forking that money out. Because you're going to be buying processor after processor after processor. You're going to lose performance on your processor, and then it's just going to go totally dead after 2 years. And then you're going to be kicking yourself in the butt. Oh my God, and I don't have the money for another one. Think about, you want to save money on your PC. You want it to last for the longest you can get out of it, especially if you spend $1,500 on it. Even if it's a pre-built, which I hope you won't buy a $1,500 pre-built, because you can get something a lot better for less. I know the prices now these days with inflation, everything, prices are not going to be low, but overall, I spent $1,500 on mine, which would, on the market, you could probably get it for $1,900. So, you see where I'm saying? So you all get the point. How do I feel about the fall of more tech review websites like Anatech? Anatech went out of, I think they discontinued. If I remember right, Anatech did I did a farewell discontinue if it was them. I think it was them. I think I seen something about that. We are entering an era of dumbed down video reviews for wannabe techies. Well, you know, look, everybody has their own way of doing things. Me, when I get new parts or anything else, Yeah, I test it online. I test it with live video right in front of you all. And also, too, when I'm doing, if I'm doing a full build, I do it live. So nobody can say that it's all been, faked. So if you do it live, they can't say it's been faked. Because you can't get around any of that doing it live. So, I don't, and you can ask all my subscribers, they will tell you, I don't fake nothing. I don't believe in it. I do everything and as real as I can. The idea of overclocking and undervolting is the same. Yep, this is true, MTBK. Because just because you lower the voltage, which lowers the wattage down some, you can set your voltage and your wattage down, but and put it under a different scale. But you can still overscale your frequency. You can make the frequency go at least a couple hundred megahertz higher and gain 1 to 2% without pushing it to the max. Well, you can push it to the max without pushing the temperature to the max. So you can avoid all that, thermal throttling from overclocking by undervolting. I don't like to thermal throttle my CPUs or my GPUs. Simple as that. At some point, it's too little for atoms to flow through the transistor. Well, this is true. Now, your transistor is built around a little horseshoe, and you got what they call your gate, your source, and your drain, your transistor. It's where the atoms flow through one side, and you got your gate that turns it on and off, and then it flows out the other side. But when you make it so small, I mean super small, to where it's almost, your transistor's the size of a hair, then it's not going to work. Because you got no compound in the middle of that action for your gate and your source. Or for your gate, and your drain and your source doesn't have any compound in the middle to actually block it off and allow decent energy flow. So an efficiency increase leads to stability decrease. That is true. I do agree with that, MTBK. Overclocking is pointless today. Evo Portal says CPUs and GPUs are already pushed to their max at stock settings. Yes and no. Like this right here, the 4070, okay, comes with two settings. Comes with not overclocked and overclocked. It has a switch that you can turn and set this to an overclock, or you can leave it at a base clock. So there's two ways you can do this. I leave mine at an overclock. This means I don't have to go into MSI Afterburner and overclock it. It's already done. You're right. I don't need to push it any higher. If I push it even more, yeah, I could overclock it and get at least 5 to 7% more out of that card. So yeah, I can push it up to a really big max. So it's, but at stock settings, it runs just fine. I take and run live stream off of that card I just showed you. That's the same card in my PC. So I do live streaming, which I'm going to tell you like this. When I do live streaming, I'm only seeing 1% of usage when I live stream to YouTube. 1%. So I can't beat that. Hell no. Intel 13th and 24th gen. Yeah, you might as well say 50th gen by now. Showed me tech is revving too high and expecting a PC to run 8 years is over. Somewhat. Look at it this way. If you've been playing a game for like 3 years on the same PC, 3 years with no problems, but all of a sudden the game makers want to change a little something, and you start to have a little bit of stability issues, then you're like, what the hell do I do to fix it? Well, first you find what the game makers changed and see if that's something you can correct that's very minimal. Or maybe it's time you need to upgrade to not a newer PC, but take your PC you got and make it better. You can make your PC better for at least 3 to 4 generations. I'm just telling you this. You can make a PC better for at least 3 to 4 generations with ease. There are some people still using the GTX 1650 on Steam. Now, how old is that card? And how many generations ago was that card? So that's something to think about. Yeah, but the increased power draw from overclocking is gaining 5% is insane. But if you're undervolting and then you go to push your clocks up higher, you're actually not overclocking. There's a difference between undervolting and overclocking. Undervolting brings the temperature and the voltage down. With taking the clocks up to its max, and when it comes to its performance, that you gain 3% more performance by undervolting than you do overclocking. And people fail to realize this. They say, no, it's this way. Yeah, it is this way. You do get 3% more performance than you would from an overclock. Overclock, you're limited until it hits that limiter, and then it comes back down. You go up, and then it comes back down, and then you're stuck at that limiter with your game. You're stuck at that limiter. Instead of undervolting and letting it go to its max, and then let it sit at its max, limited. Instead of being under its max and limited, you'll be over your max and limited. There's a difference. So, hopefully that kind of clears it up a little bit with this undervolting and overclocking. Okay? People don't understand when you're at your limiter and you're hitting that limiter, you're actually lowering your clocks and you're limited at the lower clocks. So, when you're undervolted, you're actually pulling your clocks up to its max and you're staying at its max. So there's a difference between if you're supposed to run at 5.7 gigahertz and then you overclock it to its max and then you're only running to 5.2 gigahertz instead of undervolting and then running it up to almost 5.9 gigahertz. Yeah, I jumped it up 200 more megahertz on an undervolt. As long as you balance the voltage correctly, you can bring it up. So yeah, it's better to undervolt than it is to overclock. Just my opinion. Never lost a processor and didn't have the time to test Raptor Lake for 8 years yet. Me, when it comes to testing, Intel stuff, everybody has their heart and mind when it comes to Intel, but AMD is a little bit different. You have a little bit room to work with. Intel, you really don't have that much room to work with. So I find it disturbing that both Zen 5 APUs and Lunar Lake laptops have all 6.10 screen ratios. Yep. All of them do. It's the craziest thing. At least the ones I can buy. Yeah. Well, you can change the screen ratio in the display settings. But that depends on the size of the screen too. Depends on if you got a wide screen, you got a short screen, you got a fat screen, skinny screen, I mean, but you should be able to get different settings for your screen. But laptops are kind of different other than desktops. Desktops, you can get that different ratio. But with laptops, you really can't get that much of a ratio. (16:10) screens are superior to 16:9. That depends on the eyes of the viewer. See, that all depends on the eyes of the viewer. It depends on how you see it compared to everybody else. So, you get the exact same horizontal resolution and more vertical pixels, basically. So, regardless of what laptop you use, it's all going to be the same stuff. I do agree with Evo Portal on that. It's good. No matter what laptop you use, it's going to be the same crap. Unless they do something different with the resolution. So, which they probably, unless you're running one of those 2003 laptops, that'll be a whole different bag. But I mean, unless they do something with the resolution, that's the only way it's going to be different. Which they do have some insane monitors out there. If you guys been looking, they have one monitor that's out there that they're building now that I guess it's supposed to be 3 times as better. So 16:9 is simply does not have enough vertical resolution for laptops. Yeah, but that's the cheapest route they go, Evo. That is the cheapest route they go, and if they can go even cheaper, they would go cheaper. They give you the cheapest products for the most expensive price. So you're never going to get the best of the best. You're always going to be to the third end of the best when it comes to laptops, when it comes to all computer components. Unless you really want to get the best of the best, it's going to cost you a pretty penny to get it. That's the thing. It's going to cost you more than you're going to want to pay for it. I mean, if you want a laptop that's, let's say, balls to the wall, then you're going to be spending at least about $7,000 to $8,000 to get that gold-plated laptop. to where, you know, you get the best of the best when it comes to screen resolutions and stuff like that, you know. But nobody's going to spend that kind of money, not unless you're got that kind of deep of pocket. You want to go and get that kind of a laptop. But me, if I'm going to spend $8,000 on a computer, it's going to be a desktop, because that way you can fit a lot more into a desktop than you can a laptop. Just keep that in mind too. But let's see what else on the news that we can talk about. And I know everybody's wondering when I'm going to start talking about, I know you guys are talking about Intel. I know you guys are going to want to know what's going on with Lunar Lake, you know. I mean, I really haven't been staying up and up with Intel right now because they're still going through the court process, and we don't know what's going to happen with Intel after they go through the court judgment, and how much money they're going to lose and everything else. We don't even know if they're going to come out with Battle Mage now, because they might not have enough money to do Battle Mage. And that's what I'm hearing on the forefront. I don't know what y'all are hearing, but I'm hearing that. So when it comes to, and this is an ass kicker to listen, for every gamer in this community, there's a big butt kicker for all of us right now. AMD not going up to the top with, you know, building a whole line of graphics cards. They decide to do intermediate and low-end graphics cards. Nvidia, on the other hand, deciding not to do low-end graphics cards, but they're going to do the intermediate and high-end graphics cards. So the only where the AMD and Nvidia meet is in the intermediate section of the graphics cards, in the middle. As far as competition, that's where the competition's going to be. And guess where most of your cost is going to be? They're going to keep that cost right in the center. They're going to keep you focused right on the intermediate cards. Like I got the 4070, that's the intermediate card. That's where Nvidia and AMD focus the most. So if you look at the averages going over the last couple years with AMD and Nvidia, look at all their intermediate cards. Their pricing stays level right in the intermediate section. I mean, seriously level. So that's where they've been keeping you, all of us, focused is right into the center. Because they know that if we can't afford a $2,000 graphics card, and we don't want to buy a $200 graphics card, they're going to keep our mind focused between the $500 and $600 mark. And that's pretty much what they did for the last year or two, is kept us focused right in between the $500 and $600 graphics card mark for the price. And I've noticed that. As I've been doing my monthly and rolling back to the beginning of the year and the end of last year, I see that they've been keeping us focused right in the middle. That Nvidia has been building around the intermediate section. When it comes to your graphics cards, they turned around, they built right around the RTX 4070. They come out with two RTX 4070s, one that's got GDR6X and one that's got GDR6. There's two 4070s, and make sure you check the box before you even buy it, because if you didn't want the one that just had GDR6, then you're going to be stuck on that one. And with less performance. Then you got the GDR6X 4070, what I have, and I'm staying with it because I'm happy with it. Now, and then they built around that and they come out with the 4070 Super. They built around that and they come out with the they didn't come out with the 4070 Ti. The 4070 Ti came out as a 4080 screw up, so they made it a 4070 Ti. Knowing that they had two different GPU processors, that didn't matter. People just didn't like two 4080s, one with a certain amount and one with a certain amount, and it was too confusing. So then they came out with that 4070 Ti, which is still, the 4070 Ti is still shared with the same GPU processor is shared with the 4070. Now it's the 4070 Ti Super and up that goes to the 4080. So you got three that are on the same processor as the 4070. Well, actually four. And then you got three that's on with the 4080. It's just, that's nuts. So, Lunar Lake doesn't have a direct successor. Yeah, I know. That's sad though. That's very sad though. I want a game developers that go balls to the wall when it comes to their competence instead of blaming gamers for not buying their insults. Yeah, I agree with that, MTBK. Lunar Lake does not have a direct successor. Yeah, I just said that. And I was wrong. Its predecessor is Lakefield. Yeah. 11th gen, low power, ultra low power. Not Alder Lake and 12th gen efficiency cores only. Yeah. I mean, you got, unless you do a deep dive on something, you really don't know what it's all about until you do that deep dive on it. Until you get right to the nitty gritty. Then you can find out what really is cooking about it. I mean, what the successor is and everything else. But if they're still reflecting the successor onto the newest product, and actually you're buying a refresh of the older product. That's pretty much it is. You're buying a refresh of that older product to the newer product. They're just taking one and going to the next, saying, oh, we're going to put it on a better die and this and that. I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy. But they're just copying the game plan from one, putting it on a newer die. That's basically what they're doing. So that's why they call it a refresh. And everybody thinks, well, you're going to get more performance. No, you're not. Not really. When it comes to doing these refreshes, you'll be lucky to get 3% performance increase off of a refresh. That was the biggest screw up that Intel made. Taking the 12th gen, refreshing it to the 13th gen, refreshing it to the 14th gen. Go back to the 12th gen. It's a lot cheaper. Go get yourself a 12900K, a lot cheaper. Yeah, you might get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, what does it matter? If you're only using 30% of the processor when it comes to playing games and your GPU's using 100%, what does it matter if it's 12th gen, 13th, or 14th gen? It's still going to give you 30%. Regardless. Unless you push your GPU to its max to get more than 30 to 40 to 50% of your CPU dedicated to, play the game, then, if you're not using 50%, what does it matter? As long as the CPU can keep up with your GPU, that's what matters. So, it's trial and error. That's all this is trial and error. Arrow Lake, Panther Lakes, they say, will not have on die systems RAM. Well, that's been a concept that they've been talking about, is taking the CPU and building the RAM onto the CPU. Oh, sorry. Allergies, guys. I got allergies. But the concept was that Intel was talking about putting system RAM on the GPU, or the CPU, I meant. Like they do with the VRAM for the GPU, they were thinking about doing the CPU the same way. It might work, it might not. So, wouldn't on-die RAM be L3 cache? Actually, in some sense, yeah, but in another sense, no. Because the way you can build it is you can build your CPU, and if you have enough room on it, you can take and you can put on system RAM instead of putting like your APUs that are built onto the CPU. You can take that portion that's not being used by the APU and you can build your system RAM onto the chip itself. The bad part about it is if it takes and craps out, you lose the whole CPU. That's the reason why they don't do that, is because of that fact. But using the cache, using it as a cache, yeah. But using it as a full-fledged system RAM, no, they can't do that. They've already attempted it once, and it failed. It was in a testing stage. They were going to take, instead of having that length of distance go from your system RAM to the CPU, they were going to shorten it up by building it onto the CPU itself. But it didn't work out so well. This was back a long time ago anyway. The processor would be huge if they had something like 4 gigabytes last level cache. Yeah. No matter if L2, no matter if it's L2 or L3 or L4. Well, like I said, they won't take and put system RAM on a CPU because it'd be too costly, and it would burn out faster. I mean, it would burn out really fast being side by side to your your processor for your CPU. It wouldn't work out good. I think it wouldn't. It would be a bad idea if they stacked it. And believe it or not, they can get it that small, and they could take your system RAM and they could stack it in there, and they can give you an additional 64 gigs of RAM, and then use it as a multi-swapping, and use it as a cache and RAM simultaneously. But they would have to have a swapping mechanism in there to swap it, but it would cause a bunch of latency, and it still wouldn't work. That's the reason why they have not built it into the CPUs just of yet. It'd be a big latency problem, the swap back and forth. Other than plugging in separate RAM, into your motherboard, and having it on your CPU and eliminating the motherboard, the system RAM for the motherboard, then that'd be a less cost that you would have to pay for. But it's not going to last long, especially with the amount of heat that comes off of your CPU. So you can't build system RAM onto a CPU. Just letting you guys know that. It would kill it. It would kill it. It wouldn't last, but most it might last a year and a half. I wouldn't put it any past a year and a half. 30% of all cores loaded in an average. If a core or a cache is pegged, it cannot go any faster, which is true. Which is effectively 100% load. GPU cores can run in parallel, I do agree. Much better when gaming. True, I do agree to that. Would be a dream for some if the entire operating system runs within the L3 cache, which they'll never do, because you'll find somebody that can break into the upper memory system, be able to get into the CPU and get into the L3 cache and leak something in there and go boom, there goes your computer. Because the L3 cache is more vulnerable than your actual CPU processor. Faster the memory, the more expensive it is. Yeah. Smaller it goes, the more cost. Which doesn't make sense to me. If you wanted something, and believe it or not, I'm going to say this, and I know you guys are going to be telling me I'm wrong about this, but if the die is bigger, look at the Grace Hopper chip that Nvidia uses. That thing is this big. This big. If they use that on a motherboard, don't you think you would have a lot more cores, a lot more threads, a lot more room to put a lot more things, and all they want to do is make shit smaller. So when it comes to it all, they can keep making it smaller, but once they get to 1 nanometer, they can't make it any smaller. Then it would be to where it'd be so small and so close together, it would be like tying into quantum qubits. And a lot of technicians were talking about that too. If they make them any closer, they can get to the point to where they can spin them as qubits. So that would be something too. Maybe that's the direction they're moving into, moving everybody up into the quantum. The quantum phase. That's next part up. Is computers going into the quantum, getting a quantum computer chip, but the problem is how you going to keep it negative 256 degrees or something like that. They don't have a CPU cooler on Earth that'll keep something negative 256 unless it's done by LN2 gas. So that's something to think about. In another, we would have reviews going. It is going to be interesting. AMD and Intel future sales, depending on the good reviews. That depends on if they stop screwing around so much, pseudoscientists, when it comes to their CPUs that they've been doing for the last year or two. Intel's been making too many mistakes. AMD's been making too many mistakes. Read the news. How many things that they put out there? Oh, well, we can correct it by the motherboard. Oh, we can correct it by the motherboard. Oh, it's the motherboard manufacturer's fault. Oh, it's on somebody else's shoulders, but those companies. Think about the reality of this. They don't want it. They build a product that they don't thoroughly test with the motherboards that they're going to be running on, and there comes the problem. They run them on some basic hopped up motherboards and think, oh yeah, the motherboard that you're going to put them on is going to give you the same results. Not true. You can't do it like that. Every motherboard manufacturer that makes individual motherboards for those CPUs, you have to test each one of those CPUs on those motherboards to their max and to their under. Like I said, there's 3 sections: undervolting, you got your baseline, and you got your overvolting. They should have been tested from one end to the other on the spectrum, which they don't. They only test it at baseline and do a little bit of an overclock and say, "Oh, it's all good." If guys, watch the news. They've been parading this for the last year and a half. So, in the future with Star Trek Android data, the dream of a true system on chip might be reality. Yeah, if you're deciding you want to go into liquid technology, system on a chip would be like your nanodroids. They'd be so microscopically small that you would have to take and put them into a fluid in order to make any kind of process that you can use it as flotational for a CPU. So everything would have to go liquid in order to make that happen. I know that doesn't sound like you guys understand it that much, but if you think about it, the molecules of water are a lot bigger than the molecules of a nanobot, if that makes any sense to y'all. Because I seen scientists work on these nanobots that are so microscopically small that you need a microscope to see them. That would be something to build a liquid cooled CPU with nanobot technology. That would be something I would like to see, but probably not in this lifetime. But anyway, moving on. Evo Portal says once the progression of CPU GPU performance stops soon, we no longer have to waste money on hardware. Well, truthfully, Evo Portal, I'm going to tell you like this. You never had to waste your money the whole time. Once you buy a decent once you build a decent PC, you can go in 10-year periods with your PCs. The only thing you're changing is the operating system. That's where the problem comes into line, is with the operating system. Okay, now let's say if you wanted to do, instead of doing Windows, there's many different operating systems out there that stay consistent within that operating system. So you can carry your whole PC for 10 to 15, 20 years. You can carry it a lot longer than you think. Just because Windows ends the PC, that it doesn't mean the PC is over with. You still got other operating systems out there that will carry your PC a lot longer. You can get 5 years with Windows, but you can get another 5 years with a different operating system. So you don't need to carry Windows operating system for 10 years, because Windows operating system will not carry your PC for 10. Well, actually, yeah, it would. But it is the way Microsoft is now these days, I don't know. It's been depleting. It's been coming back slowly from that 10-year mark. So, we only have a few more fab nodes to go and it's all over. Yeah, I do agree. I don't know where they're even having trouble with 3 nanometers. So, I don't see where this is going to go. They're having trouble with 3 nanometers. Right now they're at 5 nanometers. They're trying to get 3 nanometers, but they're still having problems with 3 nanometers because they can't get it down there, because you only can shrink a transistor so small to the point where it's not visible by the human eye. So, This sounds hilarious if Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang would say this. Maybe I'd make a meme. Brutal, honesty is fun. Yeah, I do agree with that. You know, you could make a good meme out of it. But I do think about it like this. I mean, the PC that I got, I can, I know I only can jump up two more generations before it all ends. Because once it goes past the year 2030, they can't go any smaller, guys. So which way are they going to go? Because everything is at that point that you hear everybody talking about 2030. So we already know what the cutoff date is. We already know 2030 is going to be the cutoff date. As sad as that sounds, I did all my calculations and everything else. Because they're going to extend Windows 11 all the way out to 2030. They might. Or they might go to Windows 12 and that'll be the last gen period till 2030. But when it comes to consumer electronics and the PC parts, they're going to have nothing to sell by 2030. That's going to suck. Because we got nothing to look forward to the future. I know, that sounds bad. I shouldn't say that like that. I know y'all don't want to hear that. Maybe they'll come out with something new by 2030 that'll take us to that next level. But right now, the way they're talking, it just doesn't seem like they have anything there in place to go to that next level. So, that's if I survive to 2030. Oh, God. Is 8K worth it? Actually, no, it's not. What is 4K? What is 4K is close enough. It would be hard to get people to upgrade if they buy an RTX 5090 or even a 5080. Yeah, it would, believe it or not. But like I said, pseudoscientists, if they come up with the 5070, I would be happy. But there's even talks. Before anybody was saying anything about a 5070, there were in talks with Nvidia that they weren't going to do a 5070. That they were talking about discontinuing the 5070 and do like something lower, like a 5060, a 5050, and a 5040. But just cut off the 5070 and break the two from your low to your highs. Because they found out and they looked at the 5070, and you can go look. They sold more 5070s than anything. With the GPU itself, the GPU die itself, they sold more of those GPU dies than any one of their products. That's what I heard. You can look it up, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that's what I heard. So, AI should give up different things to do without PCs. Yeah, they should be able to give us things to do. But what are they going to give us to do? Then we become slaves to a AI robot. If they're giving us things to do, then we become slaves to the robot. Okay? We should be giving the robot things to do and training it to think on our level. But the problem is we can't get an AI bot to get onto a human level. That's the problem. They say, oh, we're bringing out this new AI. We're bringing out this new AI. What new AI? There is no AI. We're just running around on algorithms right now. There's no new AI. Everybody, this is just a hype. AI is just a hype right now. If it actually come out to they were putting something out, artificial intelligence means that it has a mind of its own and it can think. Okay? That's artificial intelligence, is when it's got a mind of its own and it can think. Okay? All these programs that we deal with, that we type into to get a response, that's somebody else's response that was keyed in there. That's all it is. They were just AI. The AI they use now has a database library, and in that database library, it's everything that everybody says on the internet. It's all the wording and all what it compares to. It just compares what you're asking it to what's out on the internet. That's all it's comparing it to. So it's not really alive, it's not breathing, and it doesn't have a heartbeat because it can't even tell you the weather. Some can tell you the weather, but they tell you the weather from some other country. I never had the realization of AI. I have a lot of things on my PC that are AI, but do I use it? No. I have that new AI chat that Nvidia put out. Do I use it? No. I found it pointless because I got to build the database for it to, for it to talk back to me. I have to build all the database for the AI to chat back with me, but it won't chat back with me. It won't ask me questions or anything else because the way it's designed is it's only input only. It's question input only. It just doesn't come out of the blue and say, hey, how you feeling today? Or, like another person. Doesn't do that. Doesn't have that kind of reality. So that's something we all got to think about. Games should be way more interactive. Personal assistant. Well, if we wanted interactive, then we would ask Microsoft to put that little clippy thing back in. The AI assistant. The reason why they took it out in the first place was because it found basically there's a way people can store a virus in the damn thing and cause your computer to be shut down through that little clippy thing. So they can keep that little clippy thing. I don't need it. Jim Keller said language models is data-based learning and not cognitive-based learning. Yeah, it is. That's true. MTBK, you got it right. It's not cognitive. It doesn't have a... If you gave it a mind of its own, you would have to build such a structure on a separate hard drive with enormous amount of space in order for it to have some kind of cognitive knowledge of reality. It would have to have infinite number of space to have reality and cognitive. It would have to be designed to have thoughts of its own, to distinguish what's real and not real, and the whole 900 yards. They're not doing that. That's what the quantum chips were supposed to be for. But since everybody's building these little AI algorithms that the government are afraid that mixing quantum with AI is a bad thing, that it could doom us and put us to the end of the world by doing that. You all can look it up. It's there. So now we know why we don't have computers that talk to us. Do you really want a computer that talks to you? You want a computer to give you the finger? You want a computer to tell you, negative whatever? Don't you get enough of that in the real world? You don't really need it on your PC. Your PC is designed for certain things. It's designed to play games. It's designed to do content creator work. It's designed to do office work. It's designed to do your basic necessity needs, not to give you a bunch of harassment. Now, if my computer started harassing me, I think I would be like Jurassic Park and go run down the road. Just my opinion. I watched AI art when they figured out the rest. It will be mind-blowing. Yeah, it will be. I do agree with that, pseudoscientist. I still have a hopeful outlook. Well, yeah, I'm not knocking it. See, that's the thing, guys. I'm not knocking the way AI is going to be in the next few years. Okay, if they come out with something that was appropriate, that, had a cognitive skill to where, it can understand what you're talking about and give you a better response to how you feel, but a computer doesn't know how you feel. A computer can't reach out and touch you. So physically, it can't do anything. Mentally, that's the only thing it can touch out to. So we have to keep that in mind. We see things on a screen. This is all mental. Okay? With the physical look, it's still all mental. That's why a lot of people are judgmental, is because of the mental part that's on the screen. So, Jim Keller said to his two daughters, one can drive the car and the other one watches 100 million hours of videos how to drive a car. She was protesting and learned it by doing it in 8 minutes. Driving a car is not hard. You just got to know how to keep the wheel in the middle of the road. You got to know how to use the brake and the gas. If it's got a clutch, then you got to use another pedal, and you got to learn how to use your left leg to, change gears with the clutch pedal and the clutch gears and all that. Yeah, it's not hard to drive a car. I talked to a couple character AI chatbots. The insight were great, even if they ask critical questions. I'm going to be honest with you guys and say, hey, look. I have, and I know not a lot of people like the Copilot, but on my phone over here, I have Copilot on my Android phone. And it can look up anything in the world that I need to know and give me any answers that I need. Okay. Good part about that is it has a memory index and it can keep track of everything that you said from day one. So that's the good part. So you can always go back and review whatever you said from a long time ago. Because guess what it does? On that specific program, only recalls what you talked about at that time and pulls that information up through the history. That's the way that recall was supposed to work. Okay? Not everything you do that it stores and then it pulls it back up. No. The way it works is when you're in a chat and you're chatting, it keeps all that memoir of the chat, so that way it puts in an encrypted file and it stays there. And then when you're ready to use it, you talk about that certain thing and it pops that whole conversation back out. That's why I like it on my phone. I don't like it on the PC. I like it better on the Android phone. So I like it better than ChatGPT, believe it or not. ChatGPT gave me nothing but problems. And you guys got to look at it this way. Anything they come out with AI, are you going to be paying for every little new AI program that comes out? Can't they slide you some free and good ones? None of them have been doing that. So you can take what you can get. That's just my point. So look at it this way. If you want to know what a good program is, I mean, you can always put Copilot on your Android phone. And you can always start a new Microsoft account and then tie it into that Copilot that's on your phone, and it's wide open. Whatever you want to do, you can do on it. But they do have a pro section. Just to let y'all know. If you want to pay for the service, but if you don't, then you can get the basic service, and you can chat with Copilot. Let's say if you want to talk about restructuring, let's say if you're going to start a workout kind of thing, and you want to start working your body, then you can start building a lot of different things that way when it comes to your weight, the calories, and all that, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to PCs, you can do the same thing. You can say, hey, Copilot, I want to build me a whole new PC. Where do I start? And then they give you examples of how to start and where to start. And then after that, say, okay, I want to take and get a good motherboard. What kind of motherboard would be a good motherboard? Then you start looking around for a good motherboard. And then you start building the foundation off of your motherboard. Okay, now what CPU can you put, the max CPU you can put on that motherboard? So you build from there. One thing that really pisses me off right now, and I know it's probably got you guys all bumped to hell. How can the 600 series motherboards be almost identical to the 800 series motherboards? This is just what blew my mind. The only thing different is the way you boost your RAM. And that's it. There's nothing else to it. There's no improvements made. Did you all see that? I mean, I was looking at the motherboards. I'm like, what's different? There's no explanation. One explanation I heard was that, it can go up to 8,000 megahertz. So you can on a 600 series motherboard too, if you get the right one. So you're saying they tested out the right motherboards for the 600 series and found you can put 8,000 megahertz on it? So they take and make you a copy of it and then make it an 800 series motherboard? That's what you're telling me? That's pretty much what they did. They took the best of their motherboards to find out which one pulled them over to 8,000 megahertz. Just to make a new motherboard to tell you it's going to be going up to 8,000 megahertz. But they didn't say that you got to jump hoops to get there, too. Unbelievable. I saw that, guys. I tell you what, I was like, I'm happy with the B550 motherboard. I'm done right there. I'm not going to go any further with it right now. Because I can tell you, buying any new product from Zen 3 or going to Zen 4 and up, it's not going to be worth it. You're going to be wasting your money, you're going to be wasting your time, and it's just not going to be worth it. They've had more problems with Zen 4 and up than they did on Zen 3. And that's the reason why I stayed with Zen 3, is because they didn't run into those problems. I did read some reviews as well, Intel doing something. Yeah, they're doing something, alright. They're doing something to run themselves into the ground. And that's basically what they did, MTBK. They ran their business into the ground. Now they got to lease out their foundry just to keep their head above water. Just because of one simple little mistake that they made, or two little mistakes they made on their GPU dies, they pushed themselves into a hole. A hole that they're trying to dig themselves out of right now. Instead of, waiting until that technology that they want to get that flourishes and makes it just right for the consumer, they're trying to cherry pick each piece that the consumer gets that's going to be something new and spectacular, like they always say. Oh, this is new and spectacular, I'm going to give this to you. No, what they did is they built a whole big 10 years worth of slew, cherry picked everything out of it, and said, here you go. This is generation 16. AMD and Nvidia are good at doing this with their CPUs. And then they turn around and say, oh, this is a new technology, new wafer technology. And if you keep looking at the wafers, do they change? If you looked at the technology for the last 5 years, the wafers for the last 5 years, did they actually change? Not really. Maybe by 1% of each year. And that's the reason why we only get 3 to 4% improvement each generation. So it makes you wonder and think about it, if you're honest about it. What are they actually giving us that's new? There is no products that we're getting that are brand new. And everybody has to learn to accept that. You're getting refresh after refresh after refresh. All stemming back from 8th gen on Intel side till today. There's just refresh after refresh after refresh. I could be wrong. It could stem back even further. But I'm just going from 8th gen up. Because that's the way Microsoft went from 8th gen up on Intel side. Now, when it comes to AMD side, they go from Zen 2 all the way up to Zen 6 or Zen 5. So, you can see where it started and you can see where it's continuing to happen. So basically, that's the product you're getting by them snipping this, like cut and paste everything out of their CPUs. That's all they're doing is cutting and pasting. They take one thing out, they add something in different. They take one thing out, they add something different. If you look at it in Microsoft, when it comes to from Windows 95 and up, all you're getting is the basic same platform, but if you look at it, same basic platform. Same basic 64-bit platform. And they carried it through all the operating systems up from what? Windows 98? They carried it from Windows 98. I think it was 98. Could be wrong, but I did see, no, 98 was 32-bit. Well, it was one of them that they carried that was 32-bit. I think they carried 32-bit up through, no, it was Windows 98. Y'all can correct me on that. I can't remember if it's on Windows 98 or Windows XP. Can't remember when they switched from 32 to 64. But they carried both up to a certain point. They carried 32-bit and 64-bit for a certain point, and then they just went all 64. So, will they make an RTX 5080 for $800 or $900? That's a good question. But when it comes to it, and I'm going to tell you this, when it comes to it, they're already talking about a 5090. I heard on a leak that they're talking about a 5090 at $1,200. But I think it was going to be the 24 gigs of VRAM, 24 gigs. So maybe they might do $1,000 5080. And they might do an $800 5080. So if they get a 5080 that's 24 gigabytes of VRAM for $1,000, and they get a 5080 that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, two different versions, they could. Who's to say they don't do it that way? I agree with you, pseudoscientist. I agree with you. But, if they really wanted to push the wagon, they could do it that way. Yeah, I wasn't sure if, I wasn't sure if it was XP or if it was 98. Having a 32. They had two versions. They had a 32 and a 64 version of XP. So, and then from there, they just went up to a 64-bit, period. Thought there was Windows. No, wait a minute. No, because Windows 7 had a 32-bit and a 64. I have to look into this. Because I know Windows 7 had a 32-bit and a 64. So, right. Do I sound like I need a nap, guys? Do I sound that bad? I mean, jeez. I got 8 hours sleep. I just took a minute because I got lost in my thoughts for a minute. I was like, well, this can't be happening today. Must be something different that happened today, but I was getting lost in my thoughts. But no, no. If I start yawning, then you guys know I need a nap. But if I'm not yawning, then I don't need a nap. If I was did I yawn? I don't know. Probably did. Who knows? Far Cry was released in March 2004. Yeah. I'll tell you. I don't know what they're going to do, but oh, this is also what I wanted to tell y'all. Windows 12. You better strap yourselves in because they're going to move the marker again. Now you have the Windows 11 marker set for what was it? Set for the 8th gen on Intel up, and Zen, I think it's Zen, part of Zen 2 and up for Windows 11 24H2. But Windows 12, they're going to change the markers again. So, who knows where, with the 12th gen, or Windows 12, what CPUs we're going to be allowed to use. That's going to be the question. They might go full AI with Windows 12. You might have to have a AI chip built into your CPU or a motherboard built in with an AI chip in order to get it. Who knows how that's going to work. But it's just what I'm hearing. I just figured I'd let you guys know what I'm hearing. I live Far Cry 5, even with a backwards storyline. Yeah, XP is a match. 64-bit was ready at this time. Yeah, I kind of figured that to MTBK. I wasn't, but I don't know why I was thinking Windows 98 had 64-bit version. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I'm getting 98 and Windows 7 mixed up. But I did like Windows 7. Windows 7 was pretty good. A lot of people did like Windows 7, so that was pretty good. I did like Windows 10 too. Windows 7 and Windows 10, were pretty good. But when it come to Windows 11, it took a lot to learn, about Windows 11 to get it operating the way I wanted it. But now I've learned Windows 11, so I don't have too much problem with it anymore. I just wish they would go back to the old control panel. But it seems that when it comes to the old control panel that's left there, that's going to be fully removed by the time they go to Windows 12. You're no longer going to see that control panel there. That's supposed to be slowly taking out in the course of Windows 11. So by Windows 12, you're not going to see that control panel there anymore. So, what Windows 98 computers had more than 4 gigabytes of system RAM? No, actually, no, it didn't. Don't know why, but they kept the 4 gigabytes of system RAM going for quite a while. Because not a lot of people wanted to spend that kind of money out on system RAM. Look, if I could take and spend $60 and get myself 64 gigabytes of VRAM, or system RAM, imagine paying for 4 gigabytes of system RAM at the same price, maybe even double or even triple at that time. Even when I bought 2 gigabytes of system RAM, It cost me about $80, $90 a stick. I was like, hell with that. Yeah, but the thing is you have to imagine paying the price. It's not so much about, the way it operated back then. Basically, computers back then were not really designed for the gaming. They were more office than they were gaming. But it's over the period of time when Nvidia stepped in and started, pushing AMD's buttons. I said AMD's buttons. AMD decided to buy ATI and get their hands into the graphic card game that Nvidia was rocking. So, but back then, everybody was running on crappy cards. Compared to the graphics cards now, back then those were the best of the best back then, but now they're the crappiest. So that's just my thought, guys. I mean, but we have to look forward to what they got coming out for this coming generation. Let's recap a little bit. Okay. The X3D processors for AMD, that's next to come out. Intel for desktop PCs, the next one would come out was Arrow Lake. Okay, because they decided they wanted to focus more on their laptop scene. That's the reason why they did a refresh from 12th gen to 13th to 14th gen. Is so that way they can focus on the laptop scene, but then they screwed up on 13th and 14th gen, and now they're paying the price after 2 years. For the 13th gen and a year for the 14th. So now they're paying a price for both. And now they lost stock because of that. When the greed hits you so hard that all you want is the greed, you don't look at the bottom line. And that's what they didn't do. And that's the reason why they screwed themselves. And that's the reason why I have no respect on Intel's part. Yes, Arrow Lake better be good. Well, Intel's hoping it better be good, because if it's not, nobody's going to be buying it. And guess what's going to be happening? Intel's going to be putting a for sale sign in front of their lawn. And they're going to be selling their shit because they're not going to have enough money to keep up with the investors and everything else. They're going to end up going out of business. And that's pretty much what they're doing, is they're pushing themselves to the point to where they're going to be out of business. If Arrow Lake doesn't kick off for them, they're going to be out of business. They're not going to have the money to even sponsor Battle Mage that they wanted to put out. So I want to see how this is going to go. And they're already hemorrhaging money to the fact that where they begged and pleaded with the U.S. government to give them $8 billion to build, a foundry in the United States. Makes no sense, but guess what? It happened. Yep, you're right. Intel is being over. Done like Ubisoft. They've been in the game 50 years. Well, no. Close to 50 years. And they made their money. But they keep making too many mistakes. So, with all these mistakes, it's costing them millions and millions of dollars. And all they're doing is getting government handouts right now to keep them afloat. So if everybody's going to tie themselves with Intel, I'll be honest with you. If Nvidia comes out with a new CPU and it takes the market and it does a lot better than Intel, that's going to knock Intel off of the market. That means Intel's going to be done making CPUs. So all depends on what Nvidia's got cooking. That can take and totally wipe out the CPU industry. So do keep that in mind. I bet they will get their stuff together. One more. Yeah, probably they would, but who knows? One comment was they hired cheap engineers and could compensate with better manufacturing. And it doesn't work anymore. No, it won't. Buy some Intel stock, folks. Nope. Gamble by Ubisoft. Nope. I ain't going to get neither one of them. Not how this works in this hood. I guarantee that for sure. I tell you, even if you got Intel stocks and you bought $1 billion worth of their stock, that company would still not be worth $20 per stock. You'd be cutting your money down into quarters. You wouldn't even be getting everything that you would expect from their stocks. Because even though I've heard about their engineers supposed to be the best, which is crap. They lost all their good engineers to other companies because they undercut stuff. 10 cents for the Ubisoft. Well, you can go buy that. I ain't buying that. I'm telling you that for sure. Alrighty, guys. This has been a 2-hour good talk with you all, and I hope you all had a little bit of fun. And, we also, too, we got next week to go. I'm going to take and get that one game loaded so I can get either a video up on it or I can do it on a live stream. I'm still going up in the air about it if I'm going to do a video on it or I'm going to do it on a live stream. So I'm still deciding. Maybe y'all can leave a comment in the comment section on this video and let me know what would you think. What would you rather see me do? Make a video on a new game that's coming out, or you want me to put it on the live stream and live stream the game? Leave me that comment and let me know so that way I can see what y'all are going to say on it. See if which way I was going to swing. See if I was just going to make a video or I'm going to do it live. Some people, they don't like to do the live streaming kind of thing because they rather see the video. And, it's back and forth. Just let me know what you think so I know which way I'm going to do it. So if I get enough people saying, hey, I want to see it on a video, then we'll do it on a video. If I get enough people that says, hey, I want you to live stream it, then we'll live stream it. So let me know what you think. MTBK says, I get a catapult and attack the Ubisoft headquarters with German baguettes. Remember, folks, you will not own Ubisoft games and be happy. That is true. Let me make you all aware of something really quick. When it comes to online games, you own nothing. Period. These companies shut down within the snap of their hat. You no longer have what you bought. That's the reason why I've always said I'd rather have the full games on my PC. So even if their company shut down, I still got the game. But if you put all your money into like Steam and all that, it's just you ain't gonna have anything. Just to for say, you guys keep that thought and let me know. But anyway, pseudoscientist MTBK. Let's see who else we had here today. Evil Portal. And who else? All you good men and women of the internet boob. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And if you did, make sure you subscribe. And put a like on the video. Even this live stream, put a like on the live stream too. That helps the channel out. Gets YouTube to put even the live streams out there in you boobler world. And don't forget to turn your notification on so you know when I post the next video. And don't forget, if you want to become a Patreon member, right here. Was it right here? No, it's right here. Right here. If you want to become a Patreon member, you can go over there to Patreon and JJPB Community, and it's like 5 wooden nickels to get to become a member over there. I say 5 wooden nickels that way YouTube doesn't say, hey, you shouldn't be talking about the prices. So who knows? But anyway. Y'all, I wish I owned my games. I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all have a great day. Be safe. And don't do anything I wouldn't do. But anyway, we'll see you next week on the live stream. And also, too, we'll see you on Friday on Graphics Card Nightmares. Take care. Be safe. And here we go.